Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Pole on the Call podcast. My name is Mandy Mac,
And I am Cris Rivers.
and today we are super excited to be here with the incredible Allison Sipes, who is a pole entrepreneur and the founder of Dance Filthy USA.
Yep, that's me.
Yay!
So
Welcome.
excited.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be on this podcast and share with you everything pole related.
Yes,
Yes.
truly our pleasure. I can't wait. I'm excited. Uh, gee, I guess, with the first one that we always start with. What started your pole journey?
So, in a nutshell, I wanted to take adult dance classes in Orlando, and they were really expensive. And so I thought, well, if I got a job at a studio, then I can like take the classes. And so I went to audition at a ballet studio in town, and there was a woman there who was teaching a like cardio striptease aerobics class. And this was in 2005. So we're talking like no pole studios, right? And she thought I was there to take her class. I thought she was the studio owner. Long story short, she tells me she's getting ready to open up her own facility with dance poles. And would I be interested in coming to work for her? And I said, well, I've never been on a pole before, but I was a gymnast and, I'm here to interview to be a dance instructor. So you can teach me maybe. And so she said, okay, well, let's do it. So I left the dance studio and followed her, and she opened up her own studio right down the street, and it had 3 poles in it. And she taught me the very basics, like intro, day one class. Like it at this point, it was a bachelorette party or like a bucket list thing. Like it was not like a regular weekly fitness thing. And so she taught me the basics. She had a couple other classes too. There was like a floor work class, and a chair choreo class and like some other like conditioning classes. So like she was trying to make it a studio from day one, but it took a while for it to catch on. And for like the general public, it like took like I think Sheila Kelly or someone went on Oprah, and then it was like, oh, it's mainstream. But in the meantime, I saw the potential, and I asked her to teach me more than what she had given. And she's like, I don't really have time. She had like all these other jobs that she was doing along with the studio. And she told me to get my own pole and put it up in my apartment. And so I said, okay. And because this was like 2005, X pole was like not in the US yet. So I had a little Minx pole, and it was a static pole. And I put it up in my apartment, which was like 8.5 foot ceilings. And I just played around with it. And then in 2006 was when YouTube came out. And so I started looking on YouTube for pole dancing videos, and there were few and far between. But I made my first like internet friends from watching the videos and messaging them and being like, "Hey, I'm like trying to do this thing that I saw in your video. Like, I'm sorry if this is weird, but like, how do you do it or whatever?" And so I was pretty much self-taught for a very, very long time because there wasn't much beyond like that first class in my area, and there weren't any other pole studios that were close. I think the next one that opened was in Tallahassee, which is like a 6-hour drive, so didn't go there. But yeah, that's how I got started.
I feel
And
like you have the longest pole journey that we've ever talked about.
I'm coming on 20 years next June. Like that's a long time. That's half my life. Like I'm 41. Like that's like half my life.
That's
that is,
amazing.
OMG,
Yeah,
I can't even.
I know. I'm a pole dinosaur.
No, not at all. But like, I this wasn't part of the list, but I want to ask, like, how has pole dancing changed in the last 20 years for you that you've seen? Because you,
How hasn't it changed? Well, I guess the stigma hasn't changed. Like there are some places and people that are still going to see it as like a stripper pole and nothing else. I have seen a lot. I've seen it come from something that strippers and club dancers had as like a thing, and creating online communities. We had there was stripper web back in the day. There was pole junkies, where it was like not clothing, but it was like a website that had forums and threads, and you would like share your videos, and we do like weekend challenges and stuff like that. So like that was like the first kind of like online pole community. And then like others popped up after that, like Studio Vina, and I think 123 pole lessons. They started doing all these like tutorial videos and stuff. So that's when like it started to become more like fitness, like once it started to become more mainstream. And in 2009 was the first US Pole Dance Federation competition, which was like in the industry, it was like the first like non-strip club competition. And so that's when I met all these people from the internet that I had been messaging for the last like few years. And we went and saw it in New York. And that was the year that Janine Butterfly won. It was the first year. And I was like, I'm gonna do that. This is what I want to do. And so 6 months later, I was in the East Coast Regionals competition. And so so I've seen competitions, I've been a part of so many, and then decided in 2012 that there was so much talent here in Florida, but most of the competitions were either in New York or California, and the return on the investment just wasn't there. It was very expensive to travel and compete. And so I started Florida Pole Fitness Championship, and that went on until basically COVID. And then I pivoted to make it the aerial competition now. So I've seen it go from mostly underground type of activity to people trying to get it into the Olympics. I was part of the US Pole Sports Federation board when it first organized in 2015. I was the vice president, and we went through the whole ringer. We met with the International Olympic Committee and talked to them about it, and I learned a lot about pole in the Olympics, and seeing kids start with it and them doing things that we had never seen before, and the trends that have gone on. So seeing it go from, the traditional club style, old school pole, and then totally that like hashtag, I'm not a dancer or what, not a stripper, and went totally the other way, fitness, and everything was pole fitness, and nobody wanted to be associated at all. And then that kind of faded after a while. And then we went to like another resurgence of sexy style. And I think that's probably when I started the Florida Pole, not the Florida Pole, the Dance Filthy in 2015. So yeah, I've seen it kind of like circle back around and, morph into these things. And now we have like aerial pole, and I teach that too. So that's really fun. Yeah.
Wow. So what was it like starting a competition way back then?
So at that point, I had competed with USPDF, I think 4 times. I had my pro card. I had done two amateur, or they say like before pro competitions. And then the second one, I got my pro card, and then I did 2 pro competitions. And then I attended California Pole Dance Championship and a couple other like little ones. So I saw from both sides as a competitor and as an attendee what the experiences were. And I just thought, I could do it better. And so I don't know, I guess I just was really confident in my abilities, and organization was not anything in my wheelhouse, but I felt like I knew exactly what I wanted and what I didn't want, and I didn't have the money. And so I wrote out like a whole business plan, like dollar amounts, like names, numbers, like everything. And I approached X-Pole and was like, hey, I really want to do this competition in Florida. We have like a lot of talent here. And I had just become like a pro athlete with them. So I was like in a partnership with them, And so I was like, I don't know if you're interested, but I would love to do this competition. I have like everything planned, like the whole thing. I just need a check. And I will say that this is presented by X-Pole, and you guys can fly down here. I'll put you in VIP. You'll watch everybody, the whole thing. And once if hopefully we break even, and make profit, then we'll split the profit. So you make all your money first. And if there's anything left, like we'll split it and I'll do it. and we sold out. I had the most people I'd ever had in any competition. I had over 500 people. Like we reached capacity. It was, and I had 2 stage polls. Like it was like because I was like, oh, it's a little like nobody's gonna, it's not a big deal. It was a big deal. I had my judges for that year were Marlo Fiskin, Natasha Wang, Carol Helms, and Stephen Retchless. So like we went out with a bang. Like I was like, we're not playing. Like this is what we're doing. So after that, I kind of put it on the map. And then we had to move venues because we had obviously reached capacity. So we moved to a theater that had like 5,000 seats, which was like way too big, but we had the big stage and I was able to get a truss and like do the whole thing. So the first like 3 years, that was the deal with X-Pole, was that I would organize the whole thing, website, rules, like do everything. And they just paid for it. And they would send me the poles and like swag bags and all this stuff. So it was like unreal. Come to find out, that was not something that they did with anybody. Like they were like, yeah, we don't do this, but like after the first year, you like came through and we were so impressed, like, yes. But after the 3rd year, I was like, okay, like I can do it. Like I know how much it's going to cost. Like I can get some money up front now. Like I don't really need their partnership anymore. So after that, I took over full responsibility and still had them be a sponsor and like use their polls and like, we would raffle off polls and stuff like that. But it was all me from then out, like financially. So in every competition that I've done since then with Dance Filthy and all that has all been me doing it. So I learned a lot along the way, but I do think that being a competitor for, those events and attending the events and kind of like seeing like what worked, what didn't work, what happens when this happens, or what if this, or, like I was just making like a mental list every time I would attend or be a part of these events, like what was cool, what wasn't cool, what could be better. And so, yeah, that was pretty much it. And then after I did like the first 3, I was like, okay, like I know I have a system now. Like I know exactly how this needs to go, like how many people I need, like how long the show needs to be. So when I met with Michelle Shimmy in Australia and she was like, "Do you want to do Dance Filthy?" And I was like, "Sure, why not?" It was completely opposite from the pole fitness that I was doing, right? And the reason why I did the Florida Pole Fitness Championship was because there was such an uptick in fitness at that time, pole fitness at the time in 2012, that there weren't any pole fitness competitions. It was just USPDF and it was still like sexy and heels and everything. Not that you couldn't wear heels in my competition, but mine was where it was kind of like gymnastics where you had a set of moves that you had to do for your submission and for your final round so that it was like an even scoring, like everyone's doing butterfly or everyone's doing whatever. And then they could do whatever they wanted artistic wise, other tricks, combinations and whatever. So that was kind of like the first competition like that was kind of like that. USPDF did inspire the required moves and things like that, but that was also something like gymnastics from my gymnastics background. And so that was different, And now that we have Dance Filthy, it was like the complete opposite. Like I said, the swing went back to sexy. And I said, okay, like, let's go. Like I've been loving the Dance Filthy content from Sydney. Like I can do this. Like, let's go. And so that one has no movement requirements. It is like on the complete opposite end of the spectrum. And I can't tell you how much fun I have organizing and running that event. Not that I don't like the fitness ones or the aerial ones, because I love that too. It's just, it's different, So yeah.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe I was gonna say you're like, I'm going big. This is happening.
Like do it or don't, like go big or go home. So yeah.
And you said you have a gymnast background but you did not
Yeah.
have
So
an event planning background. So
no
how did
event
you just
planning.
take on this giant?
I felt like there needed to be an event on the East Coast, like Southeast particularly. I just knew there were so many talented people from me doing workshops or traveling to other studios in Florida when they finally did open, that these people needed to be seen and that they weren't going to make the investment to go to these other places. And I felt like in the beginning, Florida wasn't really on the map as far as like the pole community, And so I had intended for that event to be a place where all my Florida people could go and compete. The ones that weren't in the clubs, because sure, we had club competitions, you know, here, but this was for people who wanted to do pole, but not in a strip club setting. Have it be in like a theater, you know, type setting, because it was. So it was just a different vibe. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I just had like an overconfident ability, like to think that I could do that. I wasn't afraid of failing for some reason. And like, I thought that if I did fail, like, who cares? Because nobody else has even come close to trying this. So, you know, yeah.
Love it. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
I had no idea you'd been in the pole industry for so long, and it's such an impact. And now, like when I was sitting next to you a few months ago, I didn't know I was sitting next to
Star.
you. Now
Well,
I'm fangirl even more.
I try to stay humble, you know.
Yeah, I love that. So
For
do
a
you have
while, I didn't even like really announce that it was me doing Dance Filthy. On the one hand, I was afraid for a minute that people would be like really judgmental, like, oh, you're doing fitness and now you're doing this. But then I had the same thought, like, well, nobody else is doing it. So you can talk all that you want, but I'm not seeing anyone come up with the money or be able to come up with something just as good. So there have been other competitions since then, but not as long standing and not, I mean, I sell out tickets within hours. Like it is a scene.
which one's your favorite doing so far? Which one do you like getting ready?
I mean, I love them for different reasons. My aerial competition I love because it's like all kids. Like I had like 72 kids compete as young as 6. And to see them do aerial, silks, and lyra and hammock like at like my daughter's age, and they're just like, to me, I feel like I am giving a platform for the next generation of performers, because if you want to do circ or perform on a cruise ship or even at Disney or Epcot or Universal, you need some sort of performance experience. And for most aerialists, you only kind of get that in your school. And if they have like a showcase or something, because it's really expensive to find venues that will allow you to rig and like do all that. It's expensive. So for that competition, I love hosting it because I'm not only inspiring the next generation of performers, but giving them this opportunity to see and be seen and see what it's like to be on stage before they're like adults and, you know, it's their first time. Now, I do love Dance Filthy because it's adult and it's like, you know, we're out there, we're doing it, and the crowd is always hype, and the performances are just they just get more and more over the top. Like it's I don't know, it's so fun. It's a fun time. I look forward to that one too.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I love seeing aerial spaces for children because it's rare over here because of the
It's
stigma.
rare everywhere. It's rare everywhere. So again, like I started that one because after I was doing Florida Pole for a while, I was allowing children in that one, but obviously I wasn't getting that many. But the parents were emailing me saying, will you ever consider doing aerial? Like my kid's super into it. Like, and so it took a couple years of parents being like, please, please. And I was like, all right. So, because nobody else was doing it, people were afraid to deal with the kids and the parents and this and that. But I'll tell you what, those parents will throw money for their kids and everything to do with it, way more than the pole dancing adults. Okay. They're trying to get off cheap and like ask for discounts and whatever, which you do you, but like I'm trying to get the bag. So when I got kids and parents involved, I was like, oh, nobody wants to, but that's fine. Like I can deal with that. It's a couple emails. Like I have a kid. I know it's fine. Mom to mom, let's go. Like, yeah, so I feel like it definitely takes a certain type to run a children's competition, but if you can do it, you can get that bag, and it's like worth the hassle. And I have it organized to a system. That last competition was like nothing. It was so easy. So easy. Yeah.
Thank you for bringing in that perspective. I'm always like, no, I don't want to deal with the kids, but maybe I'm in the wrong business.
I mean, there's a lot of opportunity. You got to be crafty with it, you know?
I wanted to ask, do you have any tips for those who may want to start working with the children population? Is there special insurance or anything you recommend, things like that?
You know, that is a great question. And I've discovered that in America, we do not have any programs that are mandatory as far as like you have to take this in order to teach kids in any capacity. In the UK, they have a plethora of things that you need to get accredited by to teach any children sport, activity, anything. And I found that out through XPert. I used to be an XPert master trainer back in the day. And so recently I took their children's aerial program because I needed my CEUs for my ACE and AFA, but also I teach kids aerial here in Orlando. And I was just curious, like, what was their take on it? And I thought that it was extremely thorough in explaining the differences in children's bodies versus adult bodies, anatomy, what their heart's doing, what their brain is doing, what's appropriate and not appropriate. And then you had to go through this whole thing, safeguarding for kids, and they wanted you to complete all of these webinars. They were like hours long. And it talks about your responsibility as an adult teaching children things to look out for, abuse or neglect or things like that, and then like what you're supposed to do, who you report to. Now, unfortunately, like I said, we don't have anything set up like that in America, where if I were to see something, there's not like a governing body besides like maybe CPS or something I could report to. But it did really it gave me more confidence in teaching kids and just reassurance that what I was already doing was correct. And then gave me like the backup information so that if anyone questioned why I was doing what I was doing, I could say, well, this information here tells me, excuse me, that kids are XYZ. And so when we're doing this exercise, I need to modify it for them because of the way that their bodies are. So I felt like I was given more ammunition and more information about coaching kids. So I would highly recommend anyone to take the children's aerial course from XPert just to see the difference, because it is different. And I think that would be a great place to start. And maybe like reading some of those webinars on, you know, teaching kids sports that they have in the UK. It was really informative, but the links were provided through XPert. So I don't know if that's something on their website or it's just if you take their course, but highly recommend the course. It was great.
Thank you for that, because I was thinking of that being my next course after my Science of Heels one. So that kind of really
Yeah.
solidifies that.
And that's funny. The science and heels is the one I want to do next, and the flying pole one.
I love it.
I
So
think that's, oh no,
I was gonna
I
say,
thought that was interesting. Sorry.
Yeah.
Chris, you can go.
oh no, I'm outside. Go ahead.
Oh no, I thought it was interesting that there's no like mandatory certification to teach children. I think that that's so
Not
bizarre.
that I'm aware of. Yeah, like I'm not aware that there is like a thing that you have to like a course that's about like how they have it set up in the UK. Like it is I wish they would bring it over here. Like I was really impressed with all the information and all just it was like I was like, wow. Yeah.
Hmm.
So here,
Wow.
maybe you need to start that out there, y'all.
Yes.
If you're interested in teaching kids, I highly recommend the Expert Children's Aerial course. 10 out of 10.
Right. Right. Yeah, I definitely saw that one too.
I know
Good.
that one, Ability Science of Heels, they're all so good.
Yeah, I did Expert for gosh, 3.5, almost 4 years. And I traveled around the world teaching Expert certifications, and they only had static pole at the time. And after a few years, I was like, man, because I was like booking a lot of them myself, like reaching out to the studios because I wanted to get the work, you know? And so I had approached them about doing a spin pole certification, and they were like, yeah, we'll buy it from you for like this much. And I was like, no. So I went off and started my own. It's called Areas Fitness Training, and I have spin pole as well as like aerial hoop, so I can teach you how to be a teacher. And it's just a 2-day certification, like XPert and all these others. And I know there's a lot of conversations online about 2-day certifications and whatnot. And what I will say is this, is that those 2-day certifications, they have so much information, at least mine does, and XPert did as well. I can speak for that one. That if you really wanted to be a teacher and just had nothing to go on, like these trainings will set you up to do that. Now, what makes a good teacher is not what you're teaching. Okay. It is so much more. And I talk about that in my training. We didn't really get into that too much with XPert just because there was just so much material they wanted me to teach, but that was something that I felt kind of lacked, and that's what I added in mine. So like, these 2-day trainings are great for knowledge and information, but to be a good teacher, you really need more than that. Like, you need experience of being a student and taking all kinds of classes and having a mentor to work with you. You need to do mock teaching, and every studio is going to have a different way or method of how they hire. So even if you have a certification, they may still say, okay, that's great, but I need you to go through our training to do it how we do. So I tell everyone, just because you pass the certification, or even if you don't pass, does not guarantee you a job or guarantee that you won't get a job. So knowledge is power. The more you know about a subject, the more valuable you'll be, as a teacher, as an employee, as someone trying to start a business. So yeah, I'm pro certification. I know people think, oh, you're taking a 2-day thing to be a teacher. Well, it's not just that, right? And these certifications aren't cheap. So if someone wants to drop, $5, $6, $7, $800 on 2 days, like, to me, that says that someone's serious about their education. And people that have done certifications, I don't judge them on their ability to teach. I am admiring them for their dedication to their craft, to their interest. They are investing in themselves. They are continuing to learn about it. So that's my 2 cents on that.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Certifications it's exactly like you said, knowledge truly is power. It opens the doorways to a lot of things.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's so awesome that you developed your own certification. Mostly because I'm loving the advice you're giving, because we're developing our certification program at our studio. Just
Nice.
because a lot of people don't want to do the other certifications, and I thought it would be good to like initiate them into our studio culture that way, but
Yes.
I've never done anything like that before.
I co-sign studios that have their own training, right? Like, I'm going to teach you the foundations of pole, right? And what the general terms are, and safe ways to break things down for different levels, how to spot, how to inspire people. And the studios are going to have their own way, their own vocabulary, their own, core set of moves that they want to teach based on their curriculum. So I do feel like a studio having their own instructor training, certification, whatever you want to call it, is very important for the success of that instructor, the class, and the business in general. A lot of times I've seen studios, even here in Orlando, just hire somebody, whether they were an instructor before or not. They were just an advanced student that expressed interest, but they had no training whatsoever on being a teacher in any capacity. And so that is like, I feel like you're always throwing them to the wolves, and then they turn around and wonder why that instructor isn't doing well, or the classes aren't good, or XYZ complaint. I find that the ones that have gone through studio trainings, or at least the owner has been like, okay, like, I need you to shadow a few classes, and then I'm going to shadow you, or whatever, that usually ends up more successful.
Yay. And I'm like, I feel like it's the right way to go as well. It's just a lot, but I finally have enough time to do it. So, yay.
Well, and it also kind of ensures like quality control.
Yes. Yeah.
you want to deliver the same product every time. And if you don't have a training or a module or some handbook for people to refer to, then it's kind of like the Wild West and people will just do whatever. And it's like, oh, let's just what I like to do. And then it's like, oh,
Yeah, absolutely. And do you have any more tips for growing studio owners?
Funny you ask. For a minute, I was consulting studio owners. I helped open probably 6 studios. I even started a website called poleandaerialstudioowner.com. And when I was with the US Pole Sports Federation, we started the Studio Owners Summit. And so we had like a 3-day conference every year. I think we did it for 3 or 4 years. And people would come and we'd have keynote speakers and we went over like, mind, body, and like all kinds of stuff. But for studio owners, if you have no business experience, I mean, like not an MBA, or you haven't owned anything or like managed people in any capacity, I would say to join your chamber of commerce, your local chamber of commerce, and find mentors. They don't necessarily have to be pole dancing, right? Because it's so niche, but people like maybe it's a gym owner, maybe it's a different owner of some type, but they can provide you with resources, networking, support. They have workshops, they have community meetups. There's all kinds of things you can get involved with. And I highly recommend that studio owners who are just kind of flying by the seat of their pants to find a mentor, because if you don't have a plan, you're going to fail. And most people don't realize that running a business is different than, having the ability to just go to a studio and take class whenever you want, or like most people open a studio because they love pole dancing, not because they love admin work or payroll or taxes or insurance. But if you don't love that, you better hire somebody who does, because what you can't do is everything. You cannot do everything as a studio owner. And I see it a lot, or I saw it a lot when I was consulting. They would think, I can't afford to hire someone to help me. And I'm like, you really can't afford to not hire someone. Like, just so don't be afraid to hire help. Don't be afraid to join your local chamber of commerce, even if it's a pole studio. Like, you're a business, you're a taxpayer, you have every right to be there. And the fact that you are wanting to learn and connect and network with people, like that energy is going to take you places. And then if you can take any sort of online webinar or online classes about business, or like how to, enhance your bookings, or, stuff like that, like always be learning. And to tap into your resources in-house. Find out what your students do for a living, what they like to do, hobbies, and see if any of those people can fit into the needs of your studio. I'm talking graphic design, people who are good with social media, people who like taking videos, people that are good with numbers, bookkeeping. They may have like someone they can help you with your accounting or payroll or something like that if you don't hire that out. And to utilize that, because that returns to you twofold, right? Because on the one hand, right, you're making money from your students, but by reaching out to them and saying, hey, I heard you're a graphic designer, I have a couple things for the studio I need help with, would you be interested? And you either make that a payment situation where you're now hiring them to do your stuff, or you work out some sort of trade where you discount their membership, or, work out some sort of thing like that. But that's a way that you can get these jobs done either affordably, or just take it off your plate so you have more time to do what you really want to do as a studio owner. So try to outsource as much as you can, and get out of your head that you can't afford to hire help, because if you try to do it all yourself, it's stuff's going to fall through the cracks and you're going to lose money without even realizing it.
Thank you so much for that advice.
Yeah. Oh, and one more thing. I feel like this is kind of a hot topic sometimes. It comes up every now and then. You need to hire your people as employees. They are not independent contractors. Okay. I know in the state of Florida, that's like super important, because you will get audited if you get caught. And that has happened to a studio here. So check with the laws in your area. I know studio owners want to do the independent contractor things. They don't want to pay for FICA and taxes and like all that, but like legally, you could lose your business if you are not hiring your people in the right thing. There are checklists that you can read, that basically ask like, like if you answer yes to any of these questions, they are employees, like period. So, yeah, get your employees right so that you are not going to be caught with your pants down and then you owe a bunch of like back taxes that will put you under.
No way. Is it different for
There
every
is.
state?
I mean, I feel like this is like pretty much across the board, but yeah, I would definitely check with your specific state laws. But yeah, like tax purposes, like employee laws and stuff like that, like it can get really tricky because basically an independent contractor, by definition, they make their own hours. They bring their own equipment. They pay for all their stuff. They decide what they're teaching. Okay. If you have people teaching for you and you're telling them what time they have to be there, you're providing their equipment, you're telling them what they can and can't teach. Oh, it's intro. You're teaching intro. You cannot teach inverts, right? Which obviously, or we're having this meeting that you got to be there. Those are employees. So you got to like look at that and make sure that you're paying them appropriately because it only takes one person to get pissed off and report you. And then here comes the IRS.
Oh my
Yeah, that
gosh.
happened to a studio here. It's no longer open, but they were paying us as independent contractors. And I already had my business by then. So they were paying me as a business anyway. So that was correct for me. But they were paying their desk staff people as independent contractors. And one girl quit and they were trying to withhold her paycheck for something. I don't remember why. And the girl reported them and they got audited because she knew that we were supposed to be employees. So.
Got it. 3 years of doing this, and this is the first time we've ever heard that. Thank you so much for sharing that.
But that's something that a mentor or you would learn in a business course. So most people that open studios don't have that. And that's why they don't know these things. And then it costs them in the end because when this girl reported, it was like 3.5 years of back taxes. Like we're talking tens of thousands of dollars.
Wow. I'm really certain that most of the studios in our area hire
Oh,
Independent
instructors as independent
contractors.
contractors.
I
Yeah,
get it. I know it's cheaper, but it is not the way. If
gotcha.
you're
All right.
telling people what they can and can't teach, when they have to be there, you're providing the polls,
Hmm.
they're employees. Like, you know, we had whole seminars on this in the Studio Owner Summit.
All right, number one priority to look up.
Yeah. Research. Research.
I'm so thankful we do these because we always
Yeah.
learn so much,
A
so much.
CPA would also tell you what you need to do, how you would classify your staff.
That's a certified accountant.
Yeah. And they'll tell you don't do work studies and trades and stuff like that. So I know I mentioned that earlier, but like that can get tricky with taxes too, right? Because it's like labor.
Oh,
Mhm.
interesting. Oh my gosh.
So I've never owned my own brick and mortar. I've had the opportunity and I've looked into it significantly, but I've decided that my strengths are being a facilitator for competing and performing, making a space for that, for people to see and be seen, being an instructor, being a mentor for people, and that's it.
Love it. Well, I will definitely have to look that up for us. I know when I just started at working at the club, they hired us as employees instead of independent contractors, which I thought was very different. So perhaps I'll start asking there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
check it out.
Oh my gosh. Thank you
Oh,
again for this
You're
information.
welcome. Yeah, better to do it now than like like I said, be caught with your pants down. It only takes like one pissed off ex staff member to like do research and be like, oh,
Right. Yeah.
I'm gonna do this. Yeah.
Right. And it goes to show you too, like you can have I guess mentors in the pole dance industry, but we're all doing the same thing. And then maybe we're not all doing it right.
Well, I discovered doing these studio owner summits that the majority of people had never owned anything in their life. They weren't even managers. They had never managed people. They didn't have business degrees. They didn't even take business classes. Some of them didn't go to college, which is not required. But what I'm saying is lack of education was rampant. And they had the enthusiasm and the determination to open a business. And they were excited about it. They wanted to share their love for pole, which is, they loved it so much they thought they could open a studio, but so underprepared for all of the things that encompasses being a business owner. And so that's why we started the summit, because I felt like in order for our industry to survive, we needed to be educated and it needed to have support. And people that open these pole studios, 90% were women and were not charging their worth, didn't know their worth, weren't charging what they should have been charging, were afraid to ask for help, wanted to do everything, didn't have mentors. They were coming to us to be their mentor. So I was happy to provide as much information as I could.
And did you say this summit is still going on or?
It's not going on anymore. And I don't think there's been any others since. Because the other thing that I learned is that as much as we tried to like make a community of studio owners, we did make like a small one, like our groups that would come. But in general, it just seems like everyone's out for themselves. No one wants to help anybody. Everyone's very competitive. No one wants to share their marketing or what they've learned or what burned them. It was just, everyone's like telling their instructors they can't teach at other places and all kinds of crazy stuff. So I feel like I love women, but it's hard to separate your emotions from your decisions as a business owner. I feel like men have a lot easier time with that. And so with women, I find that a lot of these studio owners were taking things like really personally within their staff or like students that were disgruntled or whatever. And I'm like, these aren't really the main topics you should be focusing on, but like it's absorbing so much of your mental space because you're close to these people. They feel like they have access to you all the time. So it's, hard to separate that owner situation. But yeah, it was great to have that support for them. I haven't really done any research to see if there's support now because I'm like not in it. But yeah, I still recommend the Chamber of Commerce and trying to like find any like online stuff. There are a couple of studio owner summits for the dance world, like dance studios. And they may be helpful, right? Because it's not too far off from what we're doing. I think a lot of the same subjects apply. And then I did go to the Mind Body Bold conference a few years ago, and I did their pro track where they sit you down with Mind Body and they teach you how to use the reports that Mind Body can do and then extrapolate that information to use it for marketing. And that was gold. So if you use Mind Body, and you're interested in using the numbers from Mind Body, because I recommend Mind Body because of their reporting. Because once you learn what to do with those numbers and how to run those reports, you can really hone in and do your targeted marketing and see a greater return on your investment than just like, oh, I'm going to do this ad or I'm going to run this thing, or you're just like throwing stuff at a wall to see what works. And it's like, no, these people are interested in your business. These people have only been here once. These people bought this type of membership. These people. So it's like, you're able to like tailor your sales to all these groups of people. And so I'd say if you were a studio owner, you have Mind Body, you're interested in learning how to get your biggest bang for your buck and make your business grow, go to one of those conferences and take the pro track.
Excellent. Thank you for that advice as well.
Well,
We don't use MindBody, but we have Punch Pass and they have webinars like that all the time.
Yeah, so take full advantage of that
Yeah.
because they're there to help you. And, I don't know what reporting they have, but if you're able to run reports, like one I would like to run when I was helping people was like first visits reports, see like when they came, what class did they take, how long ago, like what can we do to reach out to them to get them to come back? Why didn't they come back? So, reports and stuff like that can be really helpful.
Is right. And if you're teaching all the time, you don't have time to look at the reports. But
oh
now
my
we
goodness,
do.
kind of makes me want to plan a whole new event, a new summit, and get this information out there.
Right? It made me sad that you stopped doing it because of those reasons. And we've also encountered those reasons. That's kind of why we're doing this as well.
Yeah, it's you
Right?
kind of feel like you're on Gilligan's Island in a way.
Mhm.
And I saw that across the board. Like no matter what state you were in, like there were some studios that were like sisterly or friendly or whatever, but like the vast majority, it was like, I'm the only studio around. And they would come to this summit and I'm like, so you have no competition, but they still were like scrambling to make payments. And I'm like, this is
Wow.
crazy. So yeah,
Yeah.
so we had a lot of seminars, but yeah, it was a volunteer position. It was a nonprofit. So it was like a labor of love. And, once I had my child, I decided that my free time needed to be spent elsewhere.
Oh my gosh, I know we've gone off on a really long tangent, but you just mentioned it was a nonprofit, and I've wondered what it's like to start a nonprofit because maybe that would be the direction for Pull on the Call.
Ton of paperwork, a
Favor of
ton of paperwork, a
Okay.
ton. I didn't do any of that part because it was like beyond my mental capacity. But it takes quite a bit of time to get them going. So like they don't happen right away. You have to like prove a bunch of stuff. They want to see like tax returns and like all kinds of crazy stuff. So yeah, I wish I could give you more information on that, but I do know that it's difficult to do. It's just a lot of work. And they want a lot of information. You have to fill out a lot of forms.
wow, good
Mhm.
Well,
to
I've got some time.
Stop that.
And nonprofit doesn't mean that you don't have people making money on staff. It just means that the organization does not make profits. So
Yeah.
that's kind of a misconception. Although when I was on USPSF, I was not making money. So
We feel that pull on the car. We love it, but it is a labor of
a
love though
labor
too.
of love. And I'll tell you, like these competitions, like I'm not busting the bank, right? Like when I sit down and figure out how many hours I've answered emails and done my postings because like I'm the one doing it, like at the end of the day, the profits that I do make go into the next year's like deposits and if I want to buy extra stuff to decorate or whatever. So it's again, these events are not something that if you don't have money up front to do and you can't really afford to lose money, like don't do it. Like the running events is not for financially unstable or for people who would not be able to recover if the event got canceled or like wasn't successful. I will say that.
Good.
The reason why there's not a lot of them or a lot of good ones
Right.
that stick around, right? Because people are like, oh, I can do it. And then they do it and they're like, oh, this is a lot. These venues want a lot of money and I want insurance for a day and that's like over $1,000. And like, yeah, yeah.
Man, yeah, I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
But for others who are interested in doing that, this
Yeah.
advice is good.
If anyone wants to contact me for consulting, I would be happy to share what I've learned with you. So yeah,
Yes,
I'm
you
not
were so
gatekeeping,
awesome.
I would love there to be more events, but the truth is that it's a lot of money up front. It's a lot of risk with no guarantee on your return on the investment. And you got to have a thick skin because it's an event and some people are always going to be unhappy, like, so you got to deal with that. So
That's
Oh,
true.
I
Oh,
know a
you
lot
did
of
mention that you
topic.
well, you did mention that you had some resources available. Um, I know earlier you mentioned some links, but I'm hoping that you could provide those links to us so we can include them in
oh,
your bio section.
about the kids information and all that.
Yeah, and then you mentioned you had online training
Oh, yes.
for
It's
certification.
aerialfitnesstraining.com. Yes, I will send you links to that. My next training is coming up in November. It's going to be at Bliss Fitness Studio in Melbourne, and it's a spinning pole beginner level 1, 2. So it's a 2-day training. It's 12 hours, 6 hours each day. And we go over anatomy and all the foundational moves of spin pole, the physics of spin pole, how to lead a level 1 intro through level 2 class. We go over choreography, we go over learning styles, how to teach different learning styles, spotting, stretching, warm up, cool down, the whole thing. So yeah, I'll send you the links to that.
Yes, I love spin pole.
All of those links in the comments and the notes so everybody can find them. If you're listening or watching, check those comments and notes for those links.
Can I put in the
Yes.
chat here? Well, does that work?
Oh yeah, that'll work. I'll collect it right now. I think it like disappears. Yeah.
You have to
Okay, there's
see it.
one. And then
Perfect.
I'll have to look up I don't know if I can share the kids links ones because it was like through the training, but I'll see if it's like public
Okay.
stuff. I'll like go back and look.
Yeah.
If it is, then I'll share it because it's
That'd be great because there's no information. Yeah.
yeah, the UK's got it down, but that was a great course. I love XPert. I know that I stopped working for them to do my own things, but I thought they were great when I did it. I thought that they were very innovative and they were doing it. So I'm glad that they're still growing and doing all these extra courses that I can do and keep up my other certification.
Right. They keep updating and they add new things, which I also
I love that.
appreciate.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. I did
Oh,
want to ask you a little bit about your teaching style because I remember when we were talking um, a few months ago when I met you, you said that you always teach in heels. What is your teaching style?
So, when I teach like technique classes, if it's something that I know is not going to require a spot, I will wear heels. I feel like for me, wearing heels, it forces me to be more aware, right? Like body aware. It is a great leg workout, and I just think they're fun. Like, I don't know, it's like you wear ballet shoes to dance ballet, you wear ice skates to ice skate, you wear pole shoes to do pole. So but if I'm teaching a technique class that I know, like, oh, we're doing inverts or I'm going to need to spot somebody, like, I won't put these shoes on because I want people to try it without shoes and so that I can spot safely. I always tell people shoes are not required, but they're encouraged and they're fun. And I know that whatever I wear, my students end up wanting to wear too. So yeah.
I always think about that too when I'm going into a class now. I'm like, oh, I wonder if I could wear heels in this, like Allison suggested.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like
We
it's
usually
made me a
don't wear
better
heels. Yeah.
I feel like it's made me a better dancer, and it encourages the students to like wear them, and they come to my choreo classes like all dressed up and look at the new shoes I got. It's like a whole thing. But I don't know. I love pole shoes. I make videos about them a lot. I haven't in a while, but like I love them. I love how they look. I love how they feel. I love dancing in them, and
Yeah.
so yeah, like I feel like even here at the studio where I teach regularly, I had someone say that the other day, like, oh, you're one of the few teachers that teaches in heels, like mostly. And I'm like, I like them.
Love it. And then do you want to let us know when we could take, oh, well, if we're in Florida, do you
Okay, so if
teach
you're in
online too,
Florida,
or?
I used to have an online studio. No, I was talking about all the online studios before. I started onlinePoleLessons.com in 2009 because there were no tutorial videos. And I stopped putting videos up in like 2012 when I started the competitions because it just like got overwhelming. And there were other websites that were doing it as well at the time. But I am available for online lessons if people want to do a private or something like that. I have definitely made choreography video tutorials and have sent that to people so they can like learn on their own. But I teach weekly at Dandelion Pole and Fitness in Orlando, and I teach on Tuesday mornings. And then on Wednesdays, I teach at Anti-Gravity, which is a like performance aerial circus school. And I teach aerial hammock, I teach aerial pole, and I teach Lyra over there. So yeah, and I can travel and I'll come and do workshops if anybody's interested. So yeah.
The true entrepreneur diving into
Yeah.
everything.
Everything. And it was all because like I did it and I was like, this is good, but I could probably do it better.
I love it. Right. I feel like there's probably not a bit of pole that you haven't had your hand in.
There
So
is.
awesome.
There is. I
There
have
is.
not done retreats,
Ah,
and I probably will never do retreats. I just can't people for that long. I just can't. I love them, and I think they're great for people that like want to be like up on people for like days, but that not for me.
I love it.
I'll take the workshops, but like I'm not gonna be in the house and I'm not gonna like do all the dinners and like all like I don't know.
All the dinners. The
It's always
togetherness.
like, you know, dinners and these and it's just like, I just want to like dance and then leave.
Got it.
So
Right, they
yeah,
should
you
have
won't see it.
retreats
No polar retreats for me.
for introverts.
I love that.
I'm an extrovert, but I have introverted tendencies.
Love it. Oh my gosh. We think we didn't get into any of the usual questions, which is quite all right.
I,
I'm happy to do another podcast another time.
It's always much more interesting to go into, your actual stuff rather than maybe pole tricks. But if you wanted to share your favorite and least favorite pole trick.
Okay.
yeah.
My favorite is, I have a couple. My favorite has to be Iron X because that took me so long to learn and I felt like such a badass and I can still do it. And people are always like blown away and I don't have a six pack. So people are like, how are you doing that? And then anything splits, like Jade splits is like the OG, but like any kind of split, I'm all about. So yeah. At least favorite, probably elbow stuff. Like I can do an elbow grip Aisha, but that's it. I don't do like devil's elbow or any of the like elbow behind the back stuff. Like I'm not into elbow stuff. I don't know.
I've never heard of devil's elbow. I'm gonna have to check that out.
Yeah, it's a spin where you are holding on the pole with your elbow and your opposite arm is grabbing your opposite leg in a split. So you're like
Okay.
kind of twisted on the pole, but you're spinning and you're just holding on with your elbow.
Oh, I have seen that. I did not know that was called the devil's elbow. That is
Devil's
cute.
elbow, because she'll get you.
Right, Chris? I think you taught me the progression for it because my
I
elbows are also like, no.
remember for the elbow grip you mean?
Yeah, where you had your
Aisha's
elbow and then
okay
just,
because you're just holding it, right? But I'm talking about like the spin. So even on
yeah.
spin pole, it's like all your weight. I don't know. Those I never got into. And also, I don't like Teddy.
I love Teddy.
I know it's an OG move, but I've never seen it look good on anybody. You're just like, you know, and it hurts your
It looks
arm.
good on me. No, I'm just kidding.
I do like the vertical split variation, but that to me is almost like not even a Teddy, you know, like Teddy's like straddle. I don't know. I just feel like people look crazy when they do it. I don't know.
Teddy, I can respect that one because I'm not a fan of it neither. It's so weird.
Like any other shapes, like I don't know. you want to show your crotch, there's like more creative ways.
Oh yes. Too funny.
Yeah.
Like maybe a spatchcock.
Yeah, like again, like
Yeah.
it's cool, and I've taught people how to do it. I'll never do it, but I've taught people how to do it, so I'm proud of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. But
Um,
that's it.
Oh.
Favorite, least favorite.
where do you in 5 years?
That's a good question. The studio that I currently teach for has only signed a 3-year lease. So if they don't re-sign in the next 3 years and there isn't another studio nearby that I want to teach for, I'm not really sure. As far as teaching class goes, I might be a little sad if it does close. But I'm also kind of experiencing some sort of like burnout in a way, like because I've been doing it for so long and I've like done everything. But I'm getting more into aerial with anti-gravity and doing performances with them. And that has seemed to have reignited my interest in training because it's new. They have so many apparatuses there for me to choose from. And I've been doing a lot of gig work with them. So kind of shifting more into aerial stuff, maybe. But yeah.
Anxiety. Wait to see what happens.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's I was trying to think about that the other day. Like, where do I see myself in 5 years? And it's like, I don't really know with pole. Like, I've been doing it so long. It's like kind of hard to picture myself not doing it, but it's also like not my entire life. So
Right.
it's, like pole's not my whole life anymore. Like when I first started, I was like obsessed and I would like spend all my time doing it. Now it's like, I got class, I'll like figure it out. Okay.
Oh, thank you for that honesty too. I was wondering, like, how do you stay enthusiastic about something for 20 years?
Yeah, my attraction to it has changed. Like when I first got into it, I was like, ooh, everything was new. And then when I realized you could do like tricks with it and go upside down, I was like, oh, let's learn all the tricks. And then after I felt that I did all that I could do, I was like, okay, like now what else? And then I was like, let's get into dance. So I started to do choreography so every, I guess, few years, I kind of like go through another season or kind of interest change a little bit. And now I feel like my interest is going more towards flying pole or aerial pole. So that's kind of where we're going. So I think trying different apparatuses, taking different classes, trying different styles, you know, will help with that. But don't make pole your whole life because you will burn
Yeah,
out.
yes. Maybe there'll be new apparatus entered into Dance Filthy in the future.
Ooh, maybe I'm gonna have an aerial chains act this year.
That would be so hot. Yes.
And you guys are the first to know about it.
Ooh, exclusive. You heard it here first. I'm pulling the call.
Right here first. Tickets
To
go on sale on October 1st. If you guys want to come see it in person, they sell out quickly. And if you are not able to come, I have the whole show for sale on demand, which you can pre-order now, and then you can also buy it after. So I'll edit all the videos and have that out like a week or two after the event. So you can download it and watch it forever and ever.
That's so
yeah.
cool. Thank you for providing it also online.
Yeah, I won't do live streams, but I'll do an on-demand curated.
Yeah, no, that's so awesome just for all of us who can't make it down to see it in person.
Yeah, it's worth seeing in person.
Right? I know you were do you mind sharing one of your favorites? I know you shared a lot with me, but
Um, I gotta say my recent favorite was last year's winner, Saskia. She was the honeybee queen, and I won't really give it away, but she had worker bees and it was very messy at the end. I had to modify some of my rules. It was so messy. So thank you, Saskia. Yeah, that's it.
love it. Right, definitely need to see it in person. Oh, do you have anything else upcoming that you want to plug before we let you go?
That's it. Yeah, just Dance
Eh.
Filthy, November 2nd, Tampa.
I've always wanted to dance filthy ever since I started.
You should. You should. We had a male champion one year, Brian, Boo Boo Brian on Instagram.
I remember that.
He's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, we have a couple male competitors this year too, so we'll see.
Hey, Cris, you're next.
You know I love dancing filthy.
Yes.
Let's go.
Right? Let's get you down there. Let's do it.
Because I do want to keep competing, but I don't know if I'm ready for PSO yet. So I want to expand it. Dance filthy's at the top.
Yes.
It's a good time.
Well, Allison, thank you so much for taking the time out to meet with us today. And
Thank you for having me. This was so fun, such a pleasure. I could talk about pole for hours and hours, but yeah.
It's such like a wealth of knowledge, and we didn't even ask all the questions.
Some people have called me a pole historian.
yeah,
I was
Mhm,
I feel
but
that way too. Yeah.
want to redo our pole history episode and have you come on.
Yeah.
I would love to. Listen, I know all the OGs. I knew them before they were somebodies. Like we were all like messaging each other, hey, how do you do this thing? Yeah. So I can
Awesome.
probably tell you some things.
That would be brilliant. Thank you. We'll set that up for sure.
Yeah.
We've been talking about this episode for a while because it's time for a remake.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, also one more thing. I am doing a beginner pole seminar. It's for free and it's going to be on September 26th. It's on Thursday. And it's going to be me and a bunch of other OG people, and we are busting limiting beliefs. So it is a free webinar. It's beginnerpolesummit.com and it's led by Sergia Louise Anderson. She's the owner of the Vertitude. And you can watch all of these seminars for free by clicking on to the beginnerpolesummit.com links on there. They have all links on there and they're all different subjects. And that's like a wealth of knowledge for beginner polers and seasoned polers. So beginnerpolesummit.com.
Right, I forgot about that. Thank you for bringing it up. I think B's niece, Sarah B, is also part of that.
Yeah, a lot of people. A lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is my second year doing it.
We have to remember to edit this clip so we can promote this because this
Yes,
episode will be
Thursday.
later, but this is good information for people.
Yeah.
Time sensitive info.
Yeah. Cool.
Fun.
Yay.
Like I
Well, this
said-
is so fun. Send me the link when it's over so I can like share it and all that.
Yes, for sure. We'll close out with thank you so much for listening to or watching this episode of Pole on the Call podcast. My name is Mændy Mac.
And Cris Rivers.
We're here with Allison Sipes, who is amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.